Everything I had just planned to say has been flushed out of my mind. All right. Thank you guys so much for all of your support, especially the people that have traveled here. It's kind of been fun sitting up in front. It's like playing Where's Waldo. I've seen everyone, like, just so many people that have traveled for me and, like, come to see my homecoming, and I thank you guys. There's even people from, like, every phase of my mission. There's, like, Terranova, William Back from the NTC, Marshall from my time at Missouri, Gilson. I don't know your guys' first names, I'm sorry. Sister Yudi from Natal. Man, it's so great seeing you guys. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for all of you guys from the Ninth Ward as well for all your prayers and support, because all of the missionaries really feel that. And just thank you guys so much. All right, so my mission was the Brazil Natal mission, the best mission in the world. And it was, well, I was called originally to the João Pessoa mission. I actually served 3 missions. It's a really interesting story. I'll tell you along the way. But it all started about, I think, 2011, when I was kind of lost at that time. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. First off, let me tell you, like, the point of my talk. I've been kind of feeling, as I've been planning for this talk, that there's someone out there who really needs to feel today that they should serve a mission. And so I'm reporting to, like, all 300 or something of you guys, but there's one person out there that I feel really needs to hear this. So really pay attention to what the Spirit says, because one of you is needing to hear this. So my mission story started out in 2011 when I was kind of lost. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with my life. And this wonderful man named Riley Jensen, my eldest quorum president, took me out to lunch. And we talked a little bit about mission. He got me thinking about that. I talked with my parents, and we got that going. And it wasn't the easiest process, because there's a lot to get done. And there was some things that I had to clear up. So, young men, like, if you're thinking about serving a mission and you've got some stuff to clear up, go talk with the bishop. It's the greatest thing you can do. It's the greatest thing you can do to get that weight off your shoulders. And it's needed to serve a mission. You will feel so great once you finally have that off your shoulders and you're serving for the Lord and His army. So, I really enjoyed the time that I had to prepare for that, because it really got my mindset in the right place. I started to focus more on my family. I started to focus more on what was actually important in my life. And then in 2012, I got my mission call to the João Pessoa mission. And I was really, like, anxious about that idea. I was like, wow, I'm going to learn Spanish. And then someone told me, no, it's Portuguese. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. And I didn't really know what to think. I mean, I don't really know much about Brazil. I mean, I've seen, like, TV shows about Rio and, like, how it's kind of poor. So I thought that's how it would be. It's actually not how that is, but it was really amazing, everything that led up to that moment going into the MTC. I remember my mother was in tears, of course, and my family was just really, really sad, but really glad as well to see that I was serving a mission, because there was a time where that didn't look like it was going to be an option. And my mother always said, like, I'm so glad seeing you on a mission. Like, it really hurts for you to be gone, but I'm so glad to see you out there. And so the time came that I went to the MTC. I had been waiting. I was supposed to go to the Brazil MTC, but I hadn't got my visa yet. So we went to the Provo MTC, and I got to meet a lot of great people there. We had so much fun, and we got to study the scriptures, like, nonstop every day. So that really fortified my testimony. Our branch president gave us a challenge that within the 6 weeks that we were there, we were the first 6-week group that we had to read the Book of Mormon, all of it, cover to cover. And I was like, wow, that is a really, really big challenge in 6 weeks. But we got it done, and it was amazing to see how much I learned from it, because I had read the Book of Mormon cover to cover before. I'd read parts here and there, but just in the MTC, with that high spiritual level, with that focus, there was something more that I got out of it, and it really prepared me as well for the weeks ahead, which were going to be very difficult. At the end of my stay at the MTC, I had not yet received my visa, so I was called as a reassignment to the St. Louis, Missouri mission, where I was sent to Cape Girardeau in Missouri, which is like a little spot in southeast Missouri that no one's ever heard of, and that you guys will probably never hear again. But it was a lot of fun there. I was in a trio with Elder Marshall and Elder Bassett, which were just great guys. We always had fun. We would always go to this place called Burritoville, which had the greatest burritos in the world. But one of the greatest things was one of the investigators that we were teaching. Her name's Casey McLaren, and that was really inspiring for me, because I saw right from the get-go the impact that our missionary discussions had on people's lives. She had a lot of worries and doubts in respect to the gospel, but she would always keep she would always do the invitations that we would leave with her, and she would always read, and little by little you could see a change within her, and she just started to really enjoy and love the gospel. And I received my visa 3 weeks after that, so I wasn't able to see her baptism. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks after that. But we kept in touch after that, and I was so happy to see how it kept growing, her testimony. There were times where she struggled, yeah, but like during those 2 years, I saw how right from the start I had changed a life, and I had changed an eternity. And that kept me going through some of the really difficult parts of the mission. What got really difficult was when I went to Brazil, and I got there, and they announced my trainer, and he was this awesome guy named Elder Gutenberg. He's a Brazilian. And some of the Brazilians, like, they've learned a little bit of English so you can communicate with them, but my guy didn't know any English, and I didn't know any Portuguese, and I was just terrified. And I was thinking, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't even know how to, like, ask for food or water. How am I going to stay alive? And over those 9 weeks that I had with him, I didn't really learn much Portuguese still. It was really tough for me to learn at the beginning. But he showed so much love for me. Like, even though it was so difficult for us to communicate, he was always laughing and always showing me, like, cool Brazilian things. And just, he always allowed me to be a part of the lesson. And I really felt grateful that even though my Portuguese was just dreadful and I wasn't able to really express myself, that he would still give me that time and treated me as an equal, as a missionary. Because that was something that I needed to feel in order to continue on. Because it was really, really tough in those first couple months. After that, I had another awesome companion, Elder Gilson, who's over here, and we also had a lot of difficulties with the work, but we found a few people that were really great as well. But my Portuguese was still terrible, and I was just so frustrated, thinking, why can't I get this? What's wrong? And shortly afterwards, when I had 6 months on the mission, I had learned a little bit of Portuguese, but I was called as a trainer with 6 months. And I thought to myself, I can't do this. I told my president, like, President, I can't do this. I do not know the language. I don't have enough confidence to go out and preach with this new kid who expects me to like show him how the work is. And he told me that I didn't need to really worry about that. That the Lord would prepare me. And that I needed to trust in him more. Around that time, shortly before that, there was something really drastic that happened on my mission. I was dating a girl for quite a while, and I received my Dear John letter. And now it's like, funny. But at that time, it was devastating. Oh, man, I was in tears. I was just, it was terrible. And that really, like, there was, I don't think I ever told my parents this. There was like 3 days where I just prayed straight for a bus to hit me so I could, like, break a leg and go home or something. But, there was a moment in genuine sincerity when I got down on my knees and I prayed for the Lord to give me enough strength to go out that day to preach the gospel. And I was just really down that day. After those 3 days of just not wanting to be there anymore, the fourth day I said to the Lord, look, I can't do this. Send me some help or I'm going to ask the president to go home. And that's when I learned that the Lord answers our prayers. That he knows me and he loves me. That he's personal. That he knows our struggles and he knows exactly what we need. I look back and I know that if he had comforted me before that time, that I would have learned nothing. If I would have continued on as a mediocre missionary, just getting by as I could. But once I was with nowhere to go, he comforted me. And I learned to trust in him because of that. I learned a lot about that, especially through the example or the story of Moses, where he was leading the people out of Egypt, and they were fleeing from them, the chariots and the soldiers that were running behind them, chasing them. And he came to the ocean, or the Red Sea, and he couldn't go to the left, he couldn't go to the right, he couldn't go behind him because the Egyptians were there chasing him. And I'm sure in that moment he just felt devastated. He probably just prayed to the Lord like, look, you told me to leave Egypt and bring millions of people with me, and now I'm trapped. There's nowhere to go. And it was that moment where there was nothing else that he could do that the Lord helped. The Lord could have led him another way. He could have prepared some, shortcut or anything that could have helped them. But he wanted Moses to learn a lesson. He wanted us to learn a lesson. That the Lord answers in his time. I know that. It's not my time. I would have loved it much sooner, that comfort. But he gave it to me when it would be most useful, not just in that moment, but in my life lesson, in all of my life. It reminds me a lot of this awesome quote that my mom sent me while I was serving on a mission. I can't remember all of the details behind it, but there was a man who was suffering from cancer, and there was a apostle who gave him a blessing, and he said, don't be so quick to leave your Garden of Gethsemane. And I thought about that. It's kind of strange, but we should be grateful for the trials that we go through because we learn from them. When everything is easy going, it's kind of tougher to learn that lesson. We are just happy and go lucky and everything's going well. But when we're suffering, that's when we really examine what's going on. We evaluate and we try to work out an end result. And that's what I really learned, is that my trials and tribulations are for my benefit, that the Lord humbles us because he loves us, and that he answers prayers. So, continuing on, I was called to train with 6 months, and again, I was humbled because I had to learn a lot, and I learned a lot with that first companion that I trained. We had a lot of real difficulties, especially just different personalities, but we worked it out, and it was in those months that I learned that I really progressed in my Portuguese more than any others. It was just like it zoomed up, and then it started to go. It kept going well throughout the mission, but that was the real moment that it really stuck, and I knew that the Lord prepared me to fulfill that assignment that he had given me. So after that, I passed through a few more areas, and I had a few more companions, and there came a point where I was called to be a companion of an elder who had a really difficult experience on the mission and just didn't want to be there anymore. Like, he was just so fed up with the mission. He hated his mission. He hated the mission president. He hated me. He hated everything. And it was really tough, those 9 weeks. My mom can tell you, like, my dad too, they pretty much suffered along with me, just reading my emails and hearing all that had gone on during that time. But that as well was a defining moment in my life. I learned how to love a brother, and I learned to love an enemy and serve him. It's just so interesting to me that those moments that I wanted so badly to get out of, that I wanted to just flee, were the moments that really defined my characteristics now. All the changes that have occurred in these 2 years. So I'm really grateful for trials that the Lord sends, because they're blessings. They truly are. After that, I was sent to an awesome place called the Cuais Novos. It was a little city interior, in the interior city. I don't know how to say that in English. And I met some amazing people there. One of them was a Catholic family that we were teaching. They were super Catholic. They didn't want anything to do with the church. They just really liked us. And it was really difficult because we wanted so badly for them to learn the principles of the gospel that we were teaching them, but they just wouldn't accept it on any level, and they just rejected the Book of Mormon, but they just loved being with us. And I tried to understand why that was, and I saw that it was because they felt good. They just couldn't define what that was. They couldn't define why they felt good. So there came a day when we kind of just sat down with them. We're like, look, I know that you just love when we come over, and I know why it is. It's because you're feeling the Spirit. And she's like, oh, yes, I know all about that. I'm like, no, I want to teach you a little bit more. I know you know a lot. I want to show you a different perspective. And we talked about it, and we read from the Book of Mormon. And there was a miracle that happened right there, because she really saw from a new point of view how the Lord could bless her life. Because that was our work as missionaries. It wasn't to change anyone's perspective on God. It wasn't to give them a totally different new gospel and just be like, blah, here it is, But it was to grow their faith in Christ and to help them see how the Lord could even more bless their lives through the restored gospel. That's one of the greatest things that I learned on this mission, is that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the true church. and that Joseph Smith was a prophet of God, called to restore that church, and we're led by a living day prophet. These principles are what bless us, because when we understand how they tie in one with another, there's just such a synchronization with our reality, with the gospel principles, with everything. And we really start to understand how the Lord works in mysterious ways and yet such simple ways. I guess what I'm trying to say with this is that if we're open, we can receive revelation. If we just open our minds and hearts, the Lord will reveal unto us His will. So I really loved that experience because I saw how just that tiny bit of change within her, a willingness to listen, a willingness to learn a little bit, helped her to see how she could even be happier and feel more joy and peace in her life. And that's all I wanted to do on the mission, is just help people to feel good about themselves. I think the last experience that I want to share is right at the end of my mission. I was teaching a family that, it was really interesting how we met them. It was a member that gave them as a referral. How they got this referral is that the member had lost $100 or 100 reais on the bus with their bill to pay the energy. And they were freaking out because money's like kind of difficult to come by there. And she thought, how am I going to pay my bill now? And there was a woman on the bus who saw when she had dropped it, but it wasn't fast enough to like get her before she got off the bus. So she got it. She went to a store, paid the bill, then called her up and like asked her to drop by, and that said that she had already paid the bill, and here was the change, and the bill was paid and everything. Like, that was just a really amazing experience to see the honesty of someone. And because of that honesty, because they had done something right, they were led to meet the church and to meet the missionaries. And we ended up baptizing that family, and they're just a super happy family now because of that little decision that woman had made. And that was another thing that I thought about, is how the little decisions in our life can lead to such great consequences. Like, she never imagined when she picked up that bill that she would like join another church, and that she would find this new purpose to life and all these great blessings, that she would one day have an eternal family. She just wanted to be an honest person. And if we can just make those small decisions too, the Lord will bless us in infinite ways that we can't really comprehend. That's something that I really tried to do on the mission, is just make all the little things count, because that's what defines us. The big decisions are influenced by the little ones we make each day. And that was an amazing experience to see them have that change of heart because of a small act of honesty. Through all of those 2 years, I just really learned to rely on the Lord. I learned to be humble, and I learned to trust that He has a plan for each of us. And even though I don't know that plan, and I don't always want to follow it because it's hard, I know that it'll always go right, and that I can trust in Him completely. That's what I have now on the Lord, is 100% trust that whatever He gives to me will be for my benefit. I love my Savior. I love all that He does for me, all that He did. And I know that because of Him, we can return to live with our Father in heaven, and that we can live with our families forever. So now I think I'm supposed to bear my testimony in Portuguese, so just nod your head and pretend like you understand. Eu amo meu Salvador Jesus Cristo por ter revelado a mim o Evangelho, por ter me mandado ao Brasil para pregar o Evangelho a um povo tão amoroso e tão maravilhoso, para pregar sobre Joseph Smith e o Evangelho que ele restaurou, que ele viu desde Jesus Cristo. Eu sei disso. Eu aprendi isso pela minha leitura do livro de Mormon. E eu sou muito grato por minha família, por meus pais, que me ajudaram tanto. E eu amo cada um de vocês. Eu espero que cada um de vocês encontre felicidade e as bênçãos eternas do templo. E esse é meu testemunho. Em nome de Jesus Cristo. Amém.